Greetings, everybody. I am sorry about the lateness of this, but hopefully you've had a chance to catch up on some other class work this weekend. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have a handheld plastic palette here. I have a medium that's called cold wax medium because I didn't want my medium to run. This is by Gamblin. Same stuff, same brand that you use. But with this medium, it is stiffer and it's also thicker. It does dry clear, believe it or not. But it's something you can use instead of the Galkid. So this would be in place of Galkid. But it functions similarly, it's just a little thicker. I've got some lovely quinacridone magenta right here. And I have my ultramarine blue is what this is. I can't find that tube, but that's ultramarine blue. This is Viridian, and that is cadmium. So I'm going to use this collage as my first attempt at a demo for how to sort of get started. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put my money where my mouth is when it comes to how I'm always telling you to interrupt edges. So using just the straight cadmium, it may not be the exact color of this, which is actually a neon. We don't need exact color. We just want sort of relational, something close to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just cover this whole section. That's going to be this top section. And note that this canvas is a little bigger than this. So this piece here is roughly almost halfway down, just underneath halfway down. So that's how I'm going to kind of lay it out. I'm using the basic layout of my collage to start out with, full well knowing that it could be that I may change it later. So that's basically the yellow. This is a nice pale color. I don't really, I'm actually going to add one more color to this. I don't really feel like I need to clean the brush necessarily, although I might at some point. I'm going to add some sepia. Sepia is very, very similar to raw umber. It just has a little bit of greenish hue. There's raw umber, but I decided to use sepia because I happen to have it and I love it. I'm going to be sort of breaking rules and dipping my dirty brush right into it just because. Now, depending on what you have in your brush, you know you don't always want to do that, but the sepia is a lot darker than this cardboard is, by the way, so I have to be careful of that. I'm going to maybe just, hey, maybe mix it with this yellow, lighten it up a little. That kind of takes it away from the correct color, doesn't it? So quickly getting into some color mixing, but I don't want to kind of get too involved in it. Just doing like a notation. I'm going to add a little cad red light to the mix. That way I have another color that I can mix in. All right, warming this up a little. So this looks about right. Using some of my medium, remember this is the medium, this isn't white. This is that medium, it's translucent wax, cold wax. This is just to kind of make a notation of the brown sort of space in the middle there. Even on the top, because I kind of actually like that. Kind of just figure might as well start by laying this in more or less correctly. I'm using a little bit of solvent to make the paint run. I don't want things to be too heavy and thick. So this is not the kind of underpainting we did before, as you may recall, right? But what might be nice is to just pull this across, even though I'm going to put the figure down over it. Let's just go ahead and do that. All right, now I have a bona fide dirty brush, so I'm going to wipe this off on my my rag if I can find it. Yes. No, that's not my rag. It's good to have all your stuff ready. Here I do not, but I do have what I'm wearing, which is usable, but I'm not going to. I'm going to actually wipe it. I did find an old shirt that is ready to be cut up as a rag, so it's a cotton shirt. Wiping that off, I'm just gonna rinse that in my jar of not turp, it's the Sunnyside stuff. So anyway, I can use this same brush now for the magenta color, which is this right here. And because the pink clouds are lighter, I need some white now. Forgot to get that on there. So got my white. Oof. That one is actually not the one I've been more recently using. Let me open one that's more ready to go. Okay. So I'm gonna just move this around this thing. There's some white. And so lightening this pink. Oof, look at that. Gotta love high quality paint. My Lord. Gamblin Quinacridone Magenta for the win, right? Okay, I'm gonna use a little bit of the medium. Remember, it's gonna dry clear. And just sketch in the cloud, just a notation of this cloud stuff on the bottom. See how nice and loose that is? Great. So now I have like the basic layout. Oh, there's that other part. This would be a good time to get the rag going. All right, just to get some of that brown off of there, eh? Let's get that pink in there. Let's make it a little stronger, shall we? Okay. And you see how I'm just guesstimating location of things? I haven't even done my blue yet. Now I'm feeling lazy, so I just put my brush in there. I'm gonna get a clean brush out just to do the next thing, which would be the blue. There's my blue. It's a dark ultramarine, right? So got to add some white to it. Got to make it nice and light to kind of go with the light bluish things I've got in here. Little notations of blue kind of dipping through here, right? So I love just being so free, just not worrying too much about specifics, just kind of using the collage as a starting point even. All right, so now I've saved the best for last. That would be our fabulous figure, right? I'm gonna just rinse this brush off and in fact, go ahead in with my Viridian. That Viridian is such a strong color. I'm gonna mix it with some sepia, so it's a little bit more unique and a little closer to the nice dark of that skirt. And I really do feel like it would be helpful at this point to at least take back a little bit of this paint where I know I'm gonna put this figure so that my first layer has a little bit of strength to it in the value range. You know, being very loose, and also I'm trying to make the composition roughly the same. So I'm increasing the scale, and I'm doing it just eyeballing, but you might want to take note of, for example, the width from here to here. So how many times does this fit into the whole thing? Well, 1, 2, 3.5. See how I did that? I kept my fingers in the same spot. I went to the left side, 1, 2, 3.5. So if I go like this, from the outside of this, the outside of this, and I go 1, 2, 3.25, you can see that that's too wide. So that's a really great way to sort of immediately see she's already a little too wide. This happens pretty easily. So if I kind of just suggest that she's roughly right here, maybe a little narrower than what I had said. Maybe that's more or less where that green skirt is. Now here's the thing about edges. If I just paint up to the edge of each thing, I'm just gonna have this awkwardness. So I like to kind of sometimes overlap and go over under. My first layer, I can simply lay everything in and then come back later. But if I just keep painting up to the edge of each shape, it becomes very artificial. So let's not get too let's not start coloring it like a coloring book, right? You can always come back in that first layer if it's bugging you and kind of do some stuff like that. But best to just sketch it in. And now for this top part, this is a really much more murky gray, so it might be a nice chance to sort of pick up the pinks on the top using a very dirty brush. I don't know if you saw what I did. I was using stuff I had sort of all over my brush and making this shape. Really love the feeling of the sky there. I don't know if you guys remember what was underneath that. It was a model, and she had the kind of old-fashioned outfit on. So, all right. This, believe it or not, is all it needs to be in its first layer. It really, really is. If you start to, you know, kind of play with it more and try to replicate exactly, you know, what you see in the cutout at this first step, that's okay. You can, you know, wet into wet, adjust things if you want, but you could also just stop. This is so simple, and it just gives you something to like let it dry. And it occurs to me that if you do that tomorrow morning in class, you won't have a lot of time to do anything else, but you know what? That is okay. The sad thing is that you don't have more things to paint on. We'll have to talk about that in class tomorrow. So if I were to keep messing with this, which I'm kind of inclined to do, I would start to fix things like I want her neck to be narrower. I just came back in with some of that yellow. And because you don't, you know, you have all day tomorrow, and some of you may not start until tomorrow, it's okay to go in a little more. I just don't want you to lose the integrity of that first step that you had. I don't want it to get too muddy. So if you find that happening, just let it dry and then come back to it. And your second layer, you can spend a heck of a lot longer on. The other thing in this layer would be to fix things if they're wrong. So like, I feel like this figure might, you know, have like some more movement in the shape of the skirt that I really would like. And I also don't like the outline I put around that pink. So I may just, you know, come in and kind of spend some time. So if you're doing the first layer tonight, stop where you stopped. But if this is for tomorrow morning, if you're not going to start till tomorrow morning, then I'm going to want you to work more on it during class. So at the beginning of class, what we'll do is we'll all talk together and we'll have a look at people's pieces that they did. And then from there, we will get started on a painting day, and you will just be ready to paint. And you can, you don't have to be on Zoom, but you'll need to come back before the end and show me what you did so that there's some connection there, you know. I think that's the easiest way, making it up as I go along with that. But yeah. So as you can see, as I'm talking, I'm just continuing to kind of flesh out things. I'm using some cadmium red here. Notice this is a clear thing. It looks weird, I know, but I hope you can tell what I'm doing. I'm using some cadmium red to kind of make variations in the color of these clouds. So sometimes they're a little warmer and sometimes they're a little cooler, but the intensity of those pinks and stuff really, really don't show up nearly the way that they might later, after I'm not using dirty brushes and after I kind of decide like the degree to which I want to, you know, really follow this. Oh, I'm going to use this paper as a place to wipe my brushes off too. If I really want to follow this thing to the letter, or if I want to start sort of deviating from it and making my own painting that has its own changes. And I think I will probably deviate a lot. In fact, it won't be long possibly before I don't even use my collage as a visual resource. It might be very soon that I, in fact, stop using that and maybe even bring in other visual resources. It's kind of neat just to not know right now. So with that, I'm going to stop because I know how long these things can take to upload. Hard to stop, I know. Okay. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, and I look forward to our experimental paint in real time session. I will be there the whole time. After we all meet and talk, I will let you go paint, and then I'll need to see you back at the end, and I will be there in Zoom the whole time, just there for you if you want to pop in throughout the whole class. Okay, very good. I promise I'm stopping just after one more thing. Just one last hurrah. Be really great if this was dry enough to be able to do a really awesome next layer next time, but I don't think it will be. Not by tomorrow morning. Okay, well, have a great evening, and that's it for now. Step 1, done.